All right, today we're talking with Army veteran Will Morden, co-founder of Transport for Troops. Mike Feuerhelm, Candyman Feuerhelm, couldn't be with us today. He's out actually driving cars around, right? So, Will, thanks for being here today. Looking forward to hearing this story. Before we get diving too deep into the business aspects of things, take us back. Tell us what you did in the Army.
So I enlisted in 2003, went in unassigned infantry airborne. They assigned me as 11 Charlie, so I ended up getting through airborne school right around the time the invasion happened in Iraq, and my
Mhm.
orders to Italy got shifted to Hawaii, so I wasn't too upset with that. Got out to Hawaii, and about 6 months later, we deployed to Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom from 2004 to 2005 for about 14 months. We got to do our jobs and came back all in one piece. But then I got out of the Army in October 2006, and that was my stint. I did the one deployment and just under 4 years total time, but had a lot of fun packed into that time.
Just under 4 years, but yet 14 of it was in Iraq.
Yeah, almost immediately. They wanted to send me back when we got back from that. I said, let me enjoy Hawaii a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Busy times back then. It was about the same time I was in Iraq the first time. So, yeah, '04 was a real busy time. So, um,
Yeah.
well, so talk about. So you decided to get out. What was your transition like? I mean, was it kind of a spur of the moment, totally unprepared? What am I going to do now, kind of thing?
Yeah, 100% unprepared. I mean, I was, had an IED hit, got all my fingers and toes, but kind of rocked me pretty good. And at the time, there wasn't the same kind of support within the military that they have now. But
Mm-hmm.
they basically cut me loose, no IRR, and I owed the Army a couple days worth of leave, and someone stole my Mitch helmet, so I had to pay some money and sit at the gate until 1800 to leave the last day. But there was no terminal leave, and it was definitely something I wasn't ready for. And transitioning out, you do the whole out process. I put an application in through Recruit Military, which sat for several years. I actually didn't hear from anybody until Home Depot called 6 years after I got out for some third shift seasonal work, stacking pumpkins and Christmas trees in a parking lot. So it was kind of discouraging. I did have a lot of support from family, so I was definitely lucky getting out, having family support. I ended up living with my parents for a couple of years, as
Mm-hmm.
super hit to the pride there. But
Mm-hmm.
I tried to find something to fit into, and got my mortgage broker's license in Miami in the summer of 2007. So it was horrible timing to be breaking into that industry, and everybody was slimy. And when it all came tumbling down, I just sat there kind of laughing, like, of course, you guys would be like this. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, but yeah, it wasn't easy. And if you have family, it definitely helped out a lot. But I certainly wasn't prepared. And as many people are aware, you don't really get help from Uncle Sam on your way out the door.
Yeah, there's a lot of lip service done to it, and they try, but um, part of the problem is as a typical veteran getting out, like you're still pretty young, and you have no idea what you really want to do, and you don't really know what's out there. So sometimes it takes just a couple of years of getting out and going out and getting punched in the face a few times before you find your way. So talk about what some of the first things that occurred. We were talking before the interview started. I believe you answered like an ad on Craigslist regarding something, right?
Yeah, so obviously, the mortgages, that didn't work out. That was within a year and a half of me getting out. That was clearly not going to be a career. So
Yeah.
I started working for a business that was owned by a family friend that rented and sold construction equipment in the Miami market. So I did that for about 4 or 5 years, but everybody that was working there was a lackey, didn't have any initiative, and I was all fired up on core values and pushing objectives and trying to like take initiative on everything, which led me to kind of look for ways to be more independent. And I saw an ad on Craigslist for a job where they were, guaranteeing certain pay, but it was kind of like just write your own check and just go in and grind. And I realized that that kind of work suited me better just to go after it. And I threw myself into it, not knowing the business that I was, getting affiliated with was just a couple guys in an office that were ripping off old ladies that had to move their cars, like snowbirds that are coming down south from New York to Florida, or
Mm-hmm.
kids moving across country or families moving across country. And so within a few weeks, I was, applying for my own license with DOT to do that job independently, just because I saw, well, at least I could be honest and helpful and not lying to people. That's how I got into shipping cars.
Yeah. What's the actual title of that job?
It's called a freight broker.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we just arranging transportation. So I never touch anything. I introduce someone who has a car to ship to somebody who's physically got the trucks to do the job, and that's actually a huge business. There's lots of businesses like mine in that space.
Mm-hmm. So you actually got a license as a freight broker. Um, I've heard this story many times from other veterans, other industries. They get into an industry and find out there's a lot of shadiness going on and people just ripping people off, and but yet the business is viable. So they bring honor, courage, commitment, and military values into it and become successful.
Yeah, it's definitely that definitely was the case. I never experienced, when starting my own business, I never had a down year. I didn't make a lot of money. If it wasn't for my GI Bill and disability that I get from the VA, I would have like been homeless. But my first year I profited $1,500, and then it just grew from there.
Mm-hmm.
And word of mouth spread. Within a couple of years time, most of my customers, without even saying I was a veteran, were military families that were shipping cars on orders and needed help. So, but yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
the honor, courage, commitment, the core values that you learn that are instilled in you, and many people bring in something like that when they even enlist.
Uh-huh.
That carries a lot of weight, I would say, in work where a lot of people are not
Yeah.
honest.
All right. Well, hold that thought. We're gonna take a quick break. Be right back. All right, back talking with Army veteran Will Morden, co-founder of Transport for Troops. So, Will, we're finally to the meat and potatoes of the interview. So, you're a freight broker, you're shipping cars, starting to make some money, bringing good core values into that industry. Things are starting to work for you, and you start you start bumping into a bunch of military families. You're starting to ship cars for military families. What was the need there? Tell us how that got started, and when did that light bulb come on that, hey man, there's a need here for helping military families move their vehicles?
Yeah, so I got my license in 2011, and by 2013, I'd seen a lot of military applications, and the question that some of them would ask, not all of them, is that, do I offer any kind of discount, because they were paying for these things. And I had been stationed Oconus, and when I got out, they shipped one vehicle to my home of record, and they shipped the other one to a Conus port that I could pick up and drive myself. And that's what I did with my,
Mm-hmm.
wife, who was pregnant at the time, cross country from Oakland to Florida. So the need started to become apparent when not everybody's situation is identical. Some people are, you know, uh, have a brand new baby, or others, they have two cars, and the wife has a medical condition that she can't drive, or others it's just my third PCS. I've done these cross country drives. It's taxing. We want to like have a more relaxing transition to a new duty station, and just the cost of moving across country, even from then until now, has continued to climb. So it became apparent around 2013 that there might be a way that I could have a bigger impact than just a token discount. And
Mm-hmm.
so in certain cases, I would just do my services for free for these families, but they still had to pay the actual cost to the truck driver, which is the bigger cost.
Right.
And that's kind of how the idea came. Like, how can I do something? I didn't give us transport for troops, but it at least got me thinking in that direction, like how to have an impact.
Yeah. So if you're active duty doing a PCS and you've got two or three cars, but you only got one driver, the PCS move doesn't cover moving those vehicles at all, or it doesn't cover the total cost. How's that actually work? All my PCS moves, it was either, me driving. In the beginning, I could fit everything I owned in the back of my car, and then eventually it got to the point where we'd load up the moving truck. The movers would come, and um, I'd hop in one vehicle with a kid, and my wife would hop in the other vehicle with a kid and dogs, and we'd go. So I guess it never dawned on me that if you have excess vehicles or a lack of drivers, I'm sure there's 100 scenarios that can occur. How do you get your vehicles moved?
Yeah, I mean that there's a lot that's changed even in the last 10 years since we started this process, from a standpoint of what is provided through, the joint travel regulations and the financial
Yeah.
allowances that are given to service members, as well as the way that those are distributed. But,
Mhm.
to begin with, the industry itself really has come of age in the last 10, 15 years. So the availability and access to a car hauling company or service hasn't been around even since, the turn of the century. It's been there, but it hasn't been as easily accessed as it is now. So there's a lot of businesses like the one I started that popped up and started soliciting these services and offering it. So I think there's a combination of just the cost component going up and allowances not really necessarily matching the true out of pocket, so that the service members are maybe doing like a Diddy move or a partial Diddy move, and they're driving, they're towing their car, and they're getting some reimbursement from per diem and mileage, but it doesn't really match what they're paying to do the job. So it's just kind of like a little Stockholm syndrome. Like they're not going to sit there and complain. This is part of the life. I've just got to suck it up and move. But as access to those services kind of cross the reality of the true cost being more than what many of them can afford. And not every situation is a single soldier or sailor or marine, whatever. There's a lot of families that have two cars, and another piece of that is, to us, is like the safety issue alone. If you're driving a car, you're already 100 times more dangerous than if you're flying. And if you got two cars, your family split, it's not only, more dangerous, doubly dangerous, but it's also not a comfortable move. And, part of what our hope is to alleviate that stress and kind of close the gap between what they're paying and the stress that they're going through on the move itself, as well as, just make it safer for them to move to their new duty station.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it isn't covered. In fact, recently, which I don't know if you're going to ask this or not, but the government's changed the way that they provide allowances for PCS. So now they give them a government travel credit card, and if you want to be reimbursed, that's the only tool that you can use to be reimbursed. However, the receiving command audits the list of expenses and then picks whatever they're going to cover, and whatever isn't covered, you've got 30 days to pay it back. Otherwise, you're going to be on some high interest, credit card that you're getting, that you have to pay back to the government. So it's and plus inflation. So there's been some cost increases and allowance restructuring that makes it even more challenging now for CONUS moves. And then the OCONUS moves, they only cover one vehicle shipping. So if you've got two cars in Germany, they don't cover the second car at all, even for OCONUS.
Wow.
So, and no matter what the circumstance, that's on you to figure out. So,
Did you guys actually work with Oconus shipping also, or just domestic?
we just started to accept. So we're not trying to ever be adversarial with the government. So PCS, my POV, if you've got the company that does the contract for the government shows that they shipped your Dodge Ram, but your wife's got a Chevy Cobalt, and they're not shipping her car, as long as we can demonstrate we're not crossing any wires, stepping on the toes of what the government's taking care of.
Mm-hmm.
We just started to offer reimbursement for those services as well. And we have a few partners that can give us like super competitive pricing, but it's still uh, that's brand new. We just discovered Oconus wasn't getting the second vehicles just in the last couple months, in fact.
Yeah. So you're a freight broker. You're in the business. You start bumping up against military families that are having these troubles and needs, and you come up with the idea. Maybe there's a viable idea or possibility to help out. And so you went down the nonprofit road. Can you cover some of the ins and outs and bumps in the road as far as starting a military nonprofit?
Yeah, so I'll back up initially. So in 2013, I was helping a Marine. I believe it was a Marine. I can't even remember the guy's name, but he was in dire straits. he didn't have enough to even pay to ship, and I waived my fee, and I was shopping him around to carriers, and that's where I first met Mike, who had his own trucking company, and was I told him what I was doing, asked him if he would help me out. He gave a discount as well, basically did it at cost, and then that started a conversation that from 2013 through 2016, he and I did a combination of discounts, and anytime he didn't pick the car up, he would help me cover some of the costs. But we just would try and help people as we could go. And in 2016, one of his customers, who was involved in another nonprofit, who was a seasonal traveler from Minnesota to Arizona, called us and asked if we could help move a vehicle for their nonprofit. And they basically, it was a Gold Star family that reacquired this truck that the service member who passed on deployment, that they had sold before the deployment. They wanted to get it back because it was just a memory of their father, the husband. They wanted that back, so they got it back, and they asked us if we would help. We moved that vehicle around the country several times for that organization, kind of as a showpiece of their commitment to the families that they support, but also it kind of gave us an opportunity to show people like, hey, we want to help too. And so in 2016, his name's Perry. He pointed me in the direction of, you need to start this process with the IRS. And nearly 3 years later, after arm wrestling with the IRS, we got our determination letter from the IRS, and the whole process usually takes 6 to 9 months on average for a 501c3 to be given a certificate. But for us, the reason why it took so long is even the IRS couldn't believe until they saw the JTR, which is over 5, until they saw everything that there was a gap there. They finally determined, this is a charitable cause that you guys have going. So they awarded the 501c3 status to us. But it was definitely, I say I got an associate's degree in applying for a nonprofit because I spent a couple of years fighting the IRS on it.
Well, the IRS and the government in general has gotten really tight on the whole veteran nonprofit thing because unfortunately, there's been a lot of fraud and scam going on. The rent a vet concept, and
yeah,
put some veteran's name on it and throw a veteran cause, and then you start collecting a ton of money, and very little of it, if any, makes it to veterans. So, once post September 11th, the veteran nonprofit applications to the IRS just were like open the floodgates, and so there's been a lot of that going on. So it is not easy. It's not easy to start up a legit veteran nonprofit because of all the chaff in the water, so the chum in the water, chaff in the air. So, but you push through and you finally got your determination letter, which was what finally validates you as a legit nonprofit. So, talk through some of your numbers since you've started doing this. What kind of success stories you got, and how many families and vehicles you guys have helped out and moved?
Yeah. So in January 2018, when we got our determination letter, my company Plymouth, and I had a small team of people at the time. I told everybody, anybody's military, have them go sign up for a reimbursement on our website at transportfortroops.org, just so that they could at least get a future reimbursement. We didn't have any money, but we wanted to pledge reimbursement based on our benefit table to anyone who would apply. And not everybody did. I had a lot of people I was twisting their arms saying, listen, if you can please do this, I know I won't give you the money, because there was some officers, for instance, and I said that you could pay it forward to somebody. Just tell all your subordinates to come here and apply. I promise, we're committed to reimbursing you. So since January of 2018 until now, we've had over 350 applicants. Some of them were not approved. Most of them were, though. I think it's about 339 as of today. But more recently, in December of last year, we were featured by a local Fox affiliate here where I am in Greenville, South Carolina, and they told the story in a very eloquent way. And actually, interviewed one of our recipients, our most recent recipients, who's in the Air Force, and the story that they told. Sorry, my phone went off. The story that they were able to tell kind of gave us further validation. So that spread through some social media platforms, and that led to since December 20th of last year, we've had over 91 approvals. So about 26% of all of our applications in the last 5 years have happened in the last month,
Sure.
which is great. Our commitment is to reimburse everyone. So we're kind of on a fundraising warpath and awareness campaign simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a partnership with United Road, which is the largest car hauler that they ship 4 million plus cars a year.
Well,
They've committed to giving us 9 free moves a month, which initially was, we'll give you a
yeah.
50, and I knocked 50 out. And then they said, we'll give you 100 more. And then I gave them too many too fast. So they want to scale it. So we've been able to give away free shipping. We're booked all the way through April, I believe. So
Yeah.
we get discounts, but also free moves. But that's kind of our numbers as of right now. I think a total of 76 of the families have gotten full reimbursement from us
Yeah.
or free shipping in that time. So we still have a lot to catch up on.
Yeah. Now, one misconception a lot of folks have about, I want to jump into the veteran nonprofit and help out vets and families, and they think they're jumping in to help them move their cars, and they start off that way, but then they quickly realize, oh, now I'm actually in the raising money business. I'm going to go raise money for this nonprofit. It sounds like most of your money so far has come in the form of shipping companies offering free shipping or heavily discounted shipping. Are you actually raising money, like cash money, operating funds, outside of shipping companies donating free rides?
Yes, we have actually gotten sponsorships from a few businesses and some small foundations. We're what's considered under 501(c)(3), a public charity. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a 509(a)(2), which is basically the majority of our support comes from individuals.
Okay.
But we have received, I say small, I mean pretty large, substantial grants. Like Pilot Truck Stops, for instance, gave us $5,000 plus $5,000 in gas cards, so a total of $10,000, which we gave all of it away within the first 10 days. But that opened up a whole new program, which we hadn't thought of, which is the fuel reimbursement, because even with the malt allowances that are provided, if someone decides to drive their car, there's still an out-of-pocket cost. So we give a couple $100 worth of gas.
Yeah.
But yeah, we challenge individuals. And in fact, if everybody who's in the military, if the 1.2 million, if everybody just gave $20 a month, which is not nothing, but if they did that, it would be self-funded within the military, and 100% of the money would go right back to them when they have to move.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, like that's an awareness thing, and we're not asking them to do it, but we are engaging with businesses and individuals who are making donations. And I'd say
Yeah.
about half of the vehicles we've shipped have been in-kind donations. The other half have been funded through money we've raised.
Awesome. So, how do we find transport for troops? How do we get more info if somebody's in need of your services, or if somebody wants to donate or get involved, help out? How do we find you?
So the website is all spelled out, transportfortroops.org. There's a donate button on the page there. There's also, a grants page for people to apply. That's on the top bar.
Mm-hmm.
And we're encouraging people to apply to also go on the homepage below there. There's our logo duplicated several times because we can't use DoD's images, but you can click on the logo beneath your branch of service and start your own peer-to-peer fundraising campaign in support of your branch. So it's not so much a come help me, even though it technically is. And 100% of the money that's donated to those fundraisers on our site goes straight to that branch. So if we've got a bunch of Marines that set fundraisers up, we take none of that. That goes all to them and to other Marines. So not only are
Cool.
we asking people to apply, but kind of help spread the word and kind of empower them to help
Yeah.
us help them.
Yeah. And you're still working as a freight broker.
So I took all of, let's see, December 21. I stepped down. I have someone who's managing Plymouth for me, and we do have to tell people, like, if they hire Plymouth to do the job that if we're paying Plymouth, the IRS makes it very, strict that we're explicit with that. But
Yeah.
I haven't been working anything but transport for troops for 14 months now. So
Oh,
this
no
has been
kidding.
my full-time effort.
Wow.
Yeah, I saved some money and I threw in 18 months I could run it and see what happens. And
Huh?
we've made some good inroads and got some good commitments. So as long as I can, hopefully get to do this full time is my goal. But yeah,
Wow. That's
that's all I
awesome.
do. Yeah.
Well, we're getting close to the end of our time. So Will, let me know, you know, you finally found your niche getting out of the army. You got into the nonprofit world. You're in it full time now. Things are going great. You're growing. What's that feel like?
To me, transport for troops, I tell people was a lifesaver to me. During the process of getting the 501(c)(3) approval, uh, there was several individuals, a few of them who were friends of mine during my deployment, who had taken their own lives and just not finding a fit. And so, what's really we hope to help in those cases as well, get people to visit with their families. Well, I say families, with their comrades and their comrades' families in
Yeah.
those cases. But yeah, I mean, it's been a lifesaver. I don't believe in like altruism. I get a lot of satisfaction out of being able to help these families. It means a lot to me to be able to take a lot of that stress off. And if I can be the squeaky wheel and get people to like just get the public to be aware that there's a need and bring in the support like that it really means a lot. And I like all the other organizations that give, we allocate 85% of every dollar that we raise goes straight to the service members. So we're not trying to keep anything in house, and we haven't yet. I mean, I'm not getting a paycheck, but we are committed to that and more. As long as we can help others and bring other veterans in and spouses who want to assist, it's nice to be able to stay engaged and kind of be part of the family still as it is. Like that means a lot to me.
That's awesome. Well, I'll give you the last word. If you're talking to somebody that's on their way out of the military, maybe not sure what they want to do, thinking about running their own business, getting involved in entrepreneurship, what kind of advice comes to mind?
Just you're capable of a lot, no matter what your job was, no matter what your skill set is. You've already got an advantage, I believe, over much of the public sector because of the things you've already gone through, even in basic training. So just keep your head down, and if you ever wanted to talk to somebody, I'm always available. If I miss your call, I'll call you right back. But yeah, you're
Awesome.
you're worth it.
All right. Appreciate that, Will. Well, look forward to seeing your future success and good luck to you and Transport for Troops and you're doing good things. So keep up the good work. Make us proud.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
All right. These two veterans are Oscar Mike.